Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. On today's video, we are reviewing the Cadisen C8180G or the Royal Oak Homage. Now, as you can see, I bought this watch with the blue dial, and I was going to buy this watch when it first came out, but looking at the specifications, the case dimensions were just too big at the time. So I waited, and lo and behold, they made a smaller version. So let's dive straight into the review. Before I do that, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you're up to date with all the latest reviews, and make sure you check all the links in the description. So the watch arrived in a pretty standard cardboard box with a sleeve, packed well, it was protected, and what you get is a cleaning cloth, instruction manual, and possibly a warranty card with it. There's the watch. Let's start unwrapping it. Now, first impressions, as soon as I held this, it is a very substantial and heavy watch. There is a load of stainless steel on this watch. Some really nice brushing. You can literally see some of the light play, so we know this is going to be a very good looking watch. Cadisen do tend to provide really good value for money watches. They concentrate on more the dressier style watches, so this AP Homage is a welcome addition. Having a look at it. So let's have a look at some of the specifications and the dimensions of this watch from Cadisen. So as I mentioned, this is the version 2 to the Cadisen Royal Oak Homage. Cadisen did originally make this watch with a 45 to 46 mm diameter, which was absolutely massive, and this is the smaller 42 mm version. So what are the specifications? So you've got a full 316L stainless steel case, bracelet, crown and bezel. You also have a sapphire crystal with no AR coating, and watch runs a Seiko Epson NH35. Yes, the old trusty workhorse of a movement, which beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour. It's a 24 joule movement with hacking and winding capability. It also comes with a date function at the 3 o'clock. The water resistance on this watch is 100 meters. This crown does not screw down, and you do have an exhibition case back. Now let's look at some dimensions. These dimensions were taken by myself with my own caliper, so I haven't gone with the specifications on the website. So the case diameter is spot on 42 millimeters. You do have a thickness of 12 millimeters, and the lug to lug comes in at around 49 millimeters. Now the lug width is 26 to 23 mil, as it does taper down, and it's actually uniquely fitted to the case. We'll go into that further on in the review. You do have a weight of 181 grams, so a very heavy and substantial watch. I think Cadisen did right by making another one and reducing that dial diameter, so it's a little bit more wrist friendly and it opens the doors to a lot more consumers. And I also really like that the thickness is only 12 millimeters. It will help the watch with a slimmer profile and way better on the wrist. So here we have the Cadisen Royal Oak Homage, playfully nicknamed Cadi-Oak. Now, instantly on first impressions, you can see a lot of key visual features. So for me, this watch is going to be all about the visual aesthetics, and let's see if they have done everything to a very high grade. I'll talk about the price at the end when I do the overview, and let's just see if it is really worth the money. So the first thing on this, they do a couple of color options. They've got black and blue, but they do two finishing options as well, or two textures. You've got a plain textured dial, and then you've got this waffle style dial. Now for me, the devil is in all the details, and another reason why I wanted to get this watch is because I saw the large surface area for all the brushing and the dial. I want to see at what quality that the detail is. So you can have a lot of detailed finishing, a lot of textures on watches, but it's all about the execution, and this is what I was interested in. I'd say changing the dimensions was definitely a good shout. It's a lot more wearable. 42 mil still will probably be on the large side of what most people are willing to wear. And there's just a lot of shine going on this watch. So let's start off with the detail. Let's have a closer look at this gorgeous waffle dial. Now, when you first lay eyes on this watch, the dial does grab your attention. You have to instantly look closer at it and just to analyze that texture, which is a waffle style texture. And the closer you go, you'll actually see how effectively they've done it and how good the detail is. The texturing has been done flawlessly. Each individual square is flawless, chamfered. You've got some perforation going through all the grid lines if you take a closer look, and that chamfering on the actual dial again helps with the light reflection. And I think this watch has played really well with angles. We look at the applied hour markers, highly polished, chamfered baton style indices, again to help with that light reflection. And that goes across to the hands as well. You got sword style hands with nice, straight, clean cut lines where the loom has been applied. And the closer we go, we'll see nothing but good build quality and a high level of finish. You also got a printed minute track present around the dial, which also really does help when setting the time. And I do prefer my dials to have minute tracks. That long seconds to arrow hand style, and it does reach the minute track around the outside. So great proportions on the hands, but just that detail on that waffling is just amazing to look at. You've got printing at the 12 and the 6 with the Cadisen logo, and 100 meters automatic above the 6. Now the loom application, as you can see, is quite poor. Although the loom indices are quite thin, you'd expect slightly a bit more loom. It is C3, but I don't think it's a superior grade, so we will have to hit it with a UV lamp just so we can see it. So yes, it's a lot brighter, but the longevity on this loom is not going to be long. It's actually going to fade pretty quickly. But you know, if it was a bit brighter, it actually does have a decent chance, and it looks pretty good. The minute, hour, seconds hand does have loom application, but it's just unfortunate that it's so poor. You've also got dots around each hour, which are also loomed, but unfortunately, it's just barely visible. Now, as I mentioned, this watch has a very angular themed case. The chamfering is present across more or less every feature, every side on the watch. So that's no different to the bezel. The bezel is an octagonal shape with 8 screws put down, and the screws do sit flush with the case. You've got linear brushing going from the top of the case to the bottom across the bezel, and it has been finished to a very high level. Now you also have polishing present on key features and key areas. Now I believe that gives this watch another dimension and really does make it stand out and gives it that gorgeous visual aesthetic. Now the key features I'm talking about is one around the bezel is highly polished, and you've also got these chamfers along the flanks of the watch, just on top of the lug tips, where you've got high polishing, and I think that helps highlight the case features and the case style. And again, it's a very angular case, so that light reflections that you get from it is phenomenal. As you can see, those highlights on the bezel and the case do really do wonders for this watch. Now you'd also have a signed crown polished with Cadisen logo, and you've got linear brushing around the case. Wherever there is brushing, it is linear, so very clean cut, precise looking watch. You know, and the more light you surround this watch with, I'd say the better it looks. You've got loads of light play, loads of reflections, a lot of glistening, shimmering, and overall, I'd say it has been done to a very, very decent quality. The caseback is a see-through exhibition style caseback with a mineral crystal. You've got the specifications engraved around the outside: automatic sapphire crystal, the model number, water resistance of 100 meters, and the company name. And the caseback allows you to see the NH35 beating away. The overall quality of the caseback is okay. It's been done to a high degree and it looks absolutely fine. So let's look at this bracelet in a lot more detail. So the bracelet, as you can see, linear brushing present. You've got solid end links, fully solid links. When you come down to the clasp, you've got a butterfly style clasp. You've got the Cadisen logo, laser etched possibly. And as mentioned, fully flat links with linear brushing, and this is that light reflection I'm talking about. I reviewed the Richard Lee Grand just a few days ago, and that had a very similar aesthetic to the actual bracelet. If anything, the links on this are just a bit thicker, a bit longer, but still the links are quite small, so resizing it is not an issue. Actually, they use good old trusty split end or split bars. Now I welcome them because I think fighting with collar pins, you know, is just a nightmare. So I'd prefer split pins all day. That's not an issue at all, as long as they seem solid. Now, when I spoke about the lug width, this is what I meant. So the lug width is kind of unusual. It's not the usual contemporary stuff that we're used to. So you got the lug to lug, which is at 49 mil, and it ends here, and the lug ends attach to the case rather than go into it. So the lug ends are based here. Obviously there's no flexibility in that, so effectively I'd say the lug to lug becomes around the 57 millimeters. But what does rescue it is these angles here, so that should bring it over your wrist. Now here you've got a female link here, which is, I think, the preferred option, going by what people say. So it allows the bracelet to curve and articulate. But, you know, I will say something about the bracelet. Even though this finish is nice and you get, you know, the desired effect from it, let's see if we can show you the inside of the bracelet. Now, you can see on the inside, the links, they've actually curved. I'll show you side on to show you what I mean. You can see that curvature here. And to me, that looks slightly better. It adds a bit more depth to the actual bracelet. And in my opinion, it makes it look just slightly better. But, you know, this is what they've gone with. Let's put it on the wrist. Let's see how it looks. So before we do that wrist check for this evening, the Zelos black tip review will be with you guys shortly. So I have resized this. I took out 4 links. Really and truly, I should have taken out another 1 or 2 because these are a bit smaller. So it's sitting just a bit loose. My wrist is 6.5 inches. And, you know, it fits really good. You know, just here, initially when I looked at it in hand, you know, looking at those end links, I thought, you know what, this is not going to fit well. But having said that, those angles, the way it slopes down, does actually curve itself around the wrist. Comfortable bracelet. And just, I'll let you just appreciate that reflection on the links. The 42mm, yes, it does show a bit of presence on the wrist actually, but that detail on that dial, that waffling, is superbly done. So I think I'm ready to pretty much sum it up. So what's my overview of the watch? You know what, I was pleasantly surprised. Like I said, the reason I wanted to get this watch is to see how well they can do it. You know, what are Cadisen's capabilities? Because don't get me wrong, there are watches out there with a lot of features and, you know, that gorgeous looking dial and, you know, putting the chamfering applied indices on. You know, you can do whatever you want really, but, you know, there is a quality to it. And I'd say I've not seen any defects. I've not seen any distortion. I've seen nothing but good quality finishing, good quality manufacturing, and that just shows me Cadisen's capability, which I am really impressed with. Here's the number now. What is this watch selling for? This watch you can pick up for around between 50 to 60 pounds. That is a lot of watch for your money. Value for money is, you know, it's blown me away. It's incredible value for money. You know, you could weigh the steel in and probably get more. But jokes aside, what I would say on that note, though, I do wish brands like these, they don't need to always come out with the cheapest watch. I think the brushing, while it is good, it does the job. It gives you nice reflections. I'd say it's a bit coarse. It's a bit too visible for me. What I would have liked is more of a satin finish. So I think the brushing should have gone up a level and made it just a bit finer, just a bit more refined. Because, like I said, you can clearly see that brushing. I mean, if they've done it for a certain effect, I'll understand. But for me, you know, just to give it that more of a quality look, quality aesthetic, they should have just gone up a grade. The polishing is fantastic. You know, it's a fingerprint magnet. Let me just give this a clean. So let that just stand out. Dimensions, you know, you've got like a big watch to wear this. You know, dimensionally it's okay. They have reduced the size from the first version, so that's always good. And the final thing, which I will say, final 2 things, sorry, is just on the bracelet, it is a bit edgy. Between the links, you'll feel some sharpness there, and you'll feel a general edginess. Maybe it's part of the design because it's so flat, but I would like to see some refinement. And as I said, maybe making it with the bracelet the other way around. I think that would be a really good touch because it's actually really smooth on the other side. Now, it brings me to the last point on the watch is the clasp. I think it's an awful clasp. This butterfly clasps are just, you know what, they're okay on petite watches, dress watches, or bracelets where there's nothing really substantial about the bracelet. But on this thick bracelet with the thick links, they needed a clasp. Honestly, like a flip lock clasp or, you know, whatever. But just this is just the weakest part of the bracelet for me. I don't really like this. And this, you know, going back to what I just said about just putting in another maybe 10 or 20 pounds, dollars, whatever it costs, just to give that final touch. You still have a value for money watch. It'll still be under £100, but you'll have something which just feels luxurious, feels great, and looks great. So that's my overview of the watch. £50, £60, no brainer. and absolute wonderful watch. And whoever's got one, I think you'll be loving it. Looking on the AliExpress store, you know, there's a certain store which has sold about 600 pieces with a rating of 4.9, which just tells you, you know, the customer satisfaction on this watch is very highly rated across 300 odd reviews. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you in the next video.